There's an article in a book that Esther and I want to recommend on pivoting. And there's a great one on the Harvard Business Review. It's called The Strategic Pivot: Rules for Entrepreneurs and Other Innovators. It's a little bit of an older article, but I think it's important because it's really focused more on, Silicon Valley culture pivoting with products and inventions, turning a basic idea into some big giant thing, which is what we talked about earlier with Instagram, right? So that's a great article. Definitely do a Google search on it, and you can find out more about that. Pivoting has a lot of different definitions, and our conversation with the Honest Field Guide is really more aligned with small businesses, entrepreneurs, people that are, definitely thinking big, but are starting off very small, right? So, take a look at that article. And then, Esther, what about your book that you'd like people to read?
So the book is one that I mentioned earlier in the podcast. That's Lean Startup by Eric Rice.
Yeah.
He is the person who introduced the word pivot in the lexicon of startup. So pivot, obviously, he didn't invent the word pivot, but he used it to describe companies that are lean and nimble, switching the route towards their vision in response to what they've learned from the market. So, like I said, creating a business is like having a hypothesis and testing a set of assumptions. And when you test those assumptions, you listen to what your market and your target audience is telling you. Sometimes that is, we don't want it, or we don't want it like this. And then you pivot in response to that. That's a really good book just to, one, learn how to be very nimble as a company, but two, to understand what pivoting really looks like with other companies in mind.
And another book, one more thing I might say is when you're running a business, whatever that business is, you've got to read Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek. It is transformative, it's liberating, and it really helps you understand that a lot of what you're doing can be automated and you don't need to be doing it yourself.